This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 31.
Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Lynn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club.
Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. I am talking about attachment styles and high sensitivity today because I find that this framework is really helpful for highly sensitive people to work out how you're showing up in relationships and how you want to show up in relationships so that you know what your tendencies are and you have some language and some frameworks around which you can process how you're showing up to things. Knowing that information, you can turn it into something that works better for you. This conversation is based on a fantastic conversation I had with someone recently about our perceptions of how we were parented or what our childhoods were like and how we can readjust those narratives as adults. And I want to start with an overview. I am drawing on this fabulous book, which is called Polysecure by Jessica Fern, Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy. This is a fantastic book if you are looking into non-monogamy. I am polyamorous, so this was one of the best books that I have read on the subject. But even if you're a monogamous person and you're just open to hearing and understanding new things, the first 100 pages of this book are all about the basics of attachment theory. It has nothing to do with non-monogamy or monogamy. I can tell you a little bit of an overview so that you can understand how all of these things interact with you as a highly sensitive person. I think it will really help you to understand a little bit more about yourself, much like understanding that you're a highly sensitive person has probably helped you understand more about yourself. I am not a mental health professional, and I am not a clinically trained psychologist or in the psychology field. I am a certified coach. So all of this I am telling you for the context of understanding a little bit better where you are functionally so that you can move into a place where it's optimal. If this is bringing up any buttons for you, or if this is bringing up old trauma for you, please seek out a mental health professional. I want you to get the support that you need. If you want to explore a little bit more, talk to your mental health professional. If you feel like you are functional and you want to become optimal, then this can just be another tool and another framework in your kit to be able to move forward. The idea is that you form your attachment to your primary caregivers as a child, and depending on how you interacted with your primary caregivers is what forms your attachment style, which you then bring into adulthood. This is why I want to bring this up for highly sensitive people. I think a lot of us think that our childhood should be something different. I find that this is very common whether you have high sensitivity or whether you don't. A lot of us just feel like I should have had a different childhood. I should have had the perfect childhood. I should have had a normal childhood. I should have had something different than what I had. And then we find as adults that pretty much no one had a quote unquote normal childhood. The first one is a avoidant attachment style, which then becomes dismissive as an adult. The avoidant style is when a child does not feel like they're getting the kind of nurturing and love and attention from their parents that they want to. And so they learn that they need to take care of their own needs as much as possible. Avoidant or dismissive people will be extremely independent and self-reliant. And if a parent is around, the child might not have gone immediately up to the parent and wanted to interact with the parent. They probably just played very quietly by themselves and took care of themselves. If this is ringing a bell for you, you might have some aspects of an avoidant or dismissive attachment style. If the child found out early in life that if they escalated their emotions, meaning if they threw tantrums or if they expressed very big emotions, and that was how their primary caregiver paid attention to them, then they create an anxious attachment style, or what becomes in an adult a preoccupied attachment style. These children discovered that when they needed their primary caregiver more and they were very big and very loud and the squeaky wheel, they get the grease. As adults, this type of attachment style shows shows up as people who are very preoccupied with their partner, and whether their relationship is working or not, they can be very anxious and maybe a little needy with their partner in order to make sure that the relationship is safe and secure. They know that the more energy they put into it and the more they escalate their anxiety or their anger or their stress, the more they're going to get attention and they're going to affirm that attachment to their partner. The third style is a disorganized attachment style. A lot of psychologists refer to this as one foot on the gas and one foot on the brakes. If you have a disorganized attachment style, you might feel like you have one foot out the door with your partner, and then the next second you're all over them and you really want to feel connected to them. A disorganized attachment style is actually really, really common for highly sensitive children because we are so sensitive to the nuances and the energy and the situations that were going on in our childhood. In order to feel safe, we are much more sensitive than other children. We picked up on those subtleties and those shifts from our parents much more easily than other children would. And so it makes sense that our highly sensitive brains as children were getting some signals sometimes that parents needed us to be our independent little selves and they were off doing their own thing and we needed to do our thing. And at other times, we were receiving the signal that our parents were hovering or they wanted to take care of us, or we were being needy or they were being needy with us. And we were trying to respond to their needs in this very anxious, preoccupied style. So it is very common for highly sensitive people to pick up this push-pull, disorganized attachment style. This also shows up for people who are not highly sensitive in very extreme cases. And I bring this up because I want you to know that if you're a highly sensitive person with a disorganized attachment style, it doesn't necessarily mean that you had a terrible, traumatic childhood. It means that you were extra sensitive to things that were going on around you when you were little, and that information got processed through your brain and made meaning that sometimes it's okay to need people and sometimes it's okay to not need people, and that you have to be able to do both in order to survive. All three of these types are insecure attachment styles, meaning that there's some kind of preoccupation or anxiety about other people, which then tends to show up in your romantic or even friendship relationships. There is a fourth style, and this is the secure attachment. This is when the primary caregiver is pretty consistent in the type of love and attention and affection that they give to the child, so that when the child goes away and does their own thing, they can always return and they know that the primary caregiver is there. I think most of us think that we should have had a secure attachment style with our parents because that's the indication that we've had the perfect childhood or the right childhood. And for most of us, we don't have a secure attachment. And that's okay. I want you to know, and Polysecure is excellent about talking about this, that if you have one of the insecure attachment styles, dismissive, avoidant, anxious, preoccupied, or disorganized, then you can earn a secure attachment style. And that's what a lot of the rest of this book is about. It is really gratifying to me and gave me so much relief when I discovered that despite the fact that I have a disorganized attachment style or had one, that through healing my relationship with therapy and with coaching, I have been able to earn secure attachments with my partners and with my friends and with my family members as well. I bring this up today because this framework was absolutely mind-blowing for me. And I want you to know that this framework is purely intended in this episode to give you a clue into what might be going on with your relationships and why you might be acting the way that you're acting. There is, again, some really deep work to be done around your attachment style. And again, I would highly recommend that you talk to your mental health professional about this. And if you are a curious person who feels pretty functional and like you can delve into this topic with a good sense of balance and equilibrium, then I highly recommend this book, or you can find some other amazing books on your attachment style to really dig into this topic and learn more about it. Here's why this applies to you, highly sensitive person. If you, like me, have a disorganized attachment style, or if you're anxious, or if you're dismissive, then that's okay. You can earn a secure attachment. If your go-to coping mechanism is to run away from situations and to avoid them and to distract yourself as much as possible, you might have a dismissive attachment style. The good thing about that is that you're probably fiercely independent, extremely self-reliant, you're probably a high achiever, and you pride yourself on not needing things from other people. The downside of this is that you probably have some trouble expressing your emotions and being vulnerable with others. You might not ask for help when you actually do need to have help, or even when it would be nice to have help. And it might scare you when other people start to be more emotional or to be more vulnerable with you. In order to help yourself, if you have this dismissive attachment style or avoidant attachment style, then the key here is to practice being okay, being vulnerable with your close people. As a highly sensitive person, you are probably not going to go out into a crowd and suddenly start telling everyone your life story. That's just not your style. But I can almost guarantee that you have a very close circle of people who are really important to you. It is excellent practice to go to your close people and to say, I need to be a little bit vulnerable and I'm not good at this yet and I need some practice. So can you be patient with me while I'm trying out sharing more things with you than I'm used to sharing with you? This can be such a huge game changer for your communication. And even though it feels scary, and even though your brain might be telling you, oh my gosh, you can't tell them these things because then they're going to leave, you will probably find that the more vulnerable you are, the closer the other people in your life feel to you, and the more that they want to be close to you, and the more empathetic and compassionate they are, because they've probably felt all the things that you're feeling too. If you can be open and honest and as little defensive as possible when you're having these communications with your close people, this is going to open up huge doors for you. I discovered this in particular with my partner, Mark, because I had a really hard time expressing anger for a really long time. And I had to practice and I had to tell him, even though I'm crying right now, I'm actually really angry and I just need to communicate that. And he was so good about just being patient and saying, okay, I'm here for as long as you need me. And then we would talk out what was making me angry. Now, as a coach, I know what were the thoughts that were bringing up the anger for me about the situation because I was in complete control of my thoughts. And then we could work through it together. And being vulnerable actually helped us grow our relationship and feel closer. And it's one of the reasons why our relationship is so strong today. This is how you can help yourself if you have a dismissive or avoidant attachment style. Now, if you are the opposite and you have an anxious or preoccupied attachment style, then you are probably showing up to your relationships with a lot of graspy or needy energy. You really, really feel like you need to spend a lot of time with your partner. You might feel a little bit jealous when they're spending time with other people or when they're putting their attention on other things because you have an unspoken expectation that any free time that you have or that they have should be available for you. You should be spending it together. This will probably create a lot of friction for you because you have expectations about how much time you should be spending together, what you should be talking about. You are probably chasing a sense of closeness that you never quite feel like you reach because no matter how close you get, you're still anxious and preoccupied about how close you could be, and you're probably chasing a vision of how it's supposed to be. The problem is, there is no perfect way to be attached to someone. There is no perfect way to communicate or be in relationship with other people, whether that's romantic or a friendship or a colleague or a family member. And so you're constantly going to be chasing validation from other people. You are probably going to want them to acknowledge you and to make you feel better when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling negative emotions, because that's how you've learned to cope with your emotions. You go to other people and they fix it for you. Of course, this can create a lot of problems for you because then you create some codependence with your partners that whenever you're feeling away, you automatically go to someone else to help you feel better instead of finding that within your. The antidote to the anxious or preoccupied attachment style is finding ways to care for your own emotions and your own mental health so that when you go to get support from your loved ones, you're actually doing it from a very secure place in yourself. And you're just asking them for support and understanding because you're meeting those human needs from a place of wholeness rather than from a place of scarcity. It's your job then to also let the people in your life have a little bit more space and to handle the emotions for yourself and to take deep compassion and deep care of yourself when the people that you love want to spend time by themselves or when they want to spend time with other people and you're not included, because that's actually okay. If you have this attachment style, giving other people space and being willing to take your own space to deal with your own emotions and let them deal with theirs might be your growth edge. It might be the place where you want to challenge yourself a little bit to try something different, especially if you're a fixer or a rescuer or a savior and you love to jump in and get in other people's business so that you can try and fix things for them. The idea, if you have this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, is to let people take care of themselves and let them be self-reliant and to find that within yourself. You too can be self-reliant and you can absolutely survive and actually thrive with a little bit more space for you to be your own whole person without needing someone else to fix things for you. the pro of that is actually that you're probably great at making connections. You love building relationships. You're very nurturing and very loyal. So there are actually some great things that can come from that. It's just going too far in the direction of being needy or codependent with your partners. If you have a disorganized attachment style, then you probably have a little bit of the dismissive and avoidant style, and you probably have a little bit of the anxious preoccupied style as well. This can get very fun and complicated for us highly sensitive people because you have probably experienced a change from one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum within the same 10-minute period or an hour or a day. Or depending on what your relationship is, you might have days where you're like, I don't know if this is working. Maybe I should start looking for an exit strategy. And other days where you're like, this is the best relationship that I've ever had in my life. How can I dig into this more? How can I get more of this? And then you're just on this constant seesaw, this pendulum back and forth, trying to meet both of these needs that can go between each other so quickly. The idea with the disorganized attachment style, in order to earn your secure attachment, is actually to be present with both sides of the spectrum. If you're feeling anxious and preoccupied about your partner or your friend or the other person in your life, then there's a sense of regulating for yourself and compassion for yourself and caring for yourself that you need to do in that moment. Then the next moment, when you're feeling dismissive and you're feeling very independent and overly self-reliant and that you don't want to talk to anyone and be vulnerable, that's the moment when you can actually step out of your shell and approach someone and regulate yourself in that moment to be able to say, I want to share this with you and I'm feeling a little bit scared. I might be shaking. I might be crying. I might have some of these physical symptoms that feel like it's very unsafe, but I feel safe with you. I can share this with you. And again, anytime you're questioning this, get in touch with your mental health professional and practice doing this with them. I use this as a framework when I'm working with clients because I want to know how they're approaching their relationships and how they're showing up to the people and the things in their life. We can also, I have found, show up with these attachment styles to concepts. Think about this with different areas of your life too. In regards to your time and your productivity, would you say that you're very anxious about it and all over it and you have this preoccupation with being productive? Or do you have a little bit more ease flowing back and forth between work and with play? In which case you would have a secure attachment with it. If you have a dismissive attachment to money, for instance, you might be one of those people who's like, why can't we just barter? I wish we didn't have to have money at all. I wish I didn't even have to worry about it. And you spend so much time not worrying about money that you might get yourself into some issues where you need the money or you are worried about money in places when you don't need to be, when it's available to you or when it's easy to get it, or you can ask for help, or you can share the responsibilities with someone else and you're not allowing yourself that option. These are just a couple of examples, but this might show up in your relationship with your body. It might show up in your relationship with work and with your job in general, let alone in your particular relationships with people in each of those situations. This is a really fascinating topic. And I want you to know too that a lot of times, because you're so highly sensitive, you were probably picking up on stuff that maybe your parents didn't even realize they were putting out into the world, and your childhood brain didn't know quite how to process them. It might have interpreted things that were not intended to be hurtful or harmful to you as things that felt unsafe because you were so sensitive. This is not to say that it's your fault, and it's not to say that it's your primary caregiver's fault either that you felt this way. It's just recognizing that this is what your brain was doing. This was the way that you determined you were able to cope with the things that were going on in your life, with the level of development that your brain had at those times. And as an adult, there is such a thing as neuroplasticity. Your brain can grow. You can learn new things at literally any age, and you can change your life at any time. That secure attachment style, whether that's in your relationships or in the areas of your life, looks like being able to do your own thing and to be independent, but also being able to rely on others and ask for help when you want it and when you need it, and having that balance between the two. It means that you can communicate openly and honestly without taking offense and getting defensive or wanting to be confrontational or aggressive with your partners or with the people in your life. It also means that you're not avoiding them. You're not withdrawing from them. You're not hiding out when things feel too scary because you're not used to being able to push yourself just a little bit outside your comfort zone and practice being vulnerable, because it is actually a skill and it's a muscle that you can build over time. All of these things can be learned. Whatever your attachment style currently is, it doesn't have to stay that way, and it can become a secure attachment where you have healthy relationships with others, and you have a fantastic relationship with yourself as well. If you are interested in learning more about this, again, I highly recommend this book, Polysecure by Jessica Fern. And I do use this when I help my clients, particularly with relationships, to be able to show up the way that they want to show up. Most of my clients are pretty aware that they want that earned, secure attachment if they don't have that attachment style already. And that's okay. You can get there. If you're interested in learning more, I want you to go to my website, stephanielynn.com. That's Linn, and book a call. I would love to talk to you about this and dig a little bit deeper. Again, I am not a mental health professional, and I don't work with trauma or depression. That's something that a trained professional is going to be a much better fit for you. But if you feel like you are a fully functioning person who just wants to go to the next level, you want to continue to grow, you want to continue to improve, and you see that this might be contributing to some of the ways that you're showing up in your relationships, there is a better way. There is another option for you. And I would love to help you figure out what that is for you and make a plan. Whether you work with me or not, you know exactly what to do to move forward and head in the direction of that secure attachment. Thank you so much for listening or watching this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. I hope that this sparked some interesting awareness for you. And again, if you had any buttons pushed or this is bringing up any really intense emotions, please talk to your mental health professional about this. But I want you to have this information because this could be really life-changing for the way that you're showing up to yourself, for the way that you're showing up to your relationships, and for the way that you're showing up to your life. And you can use it in a very functional way to make everything better. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to StephanieLynn, that's Linn.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.